It is Thursday, May 18th. We're going in depth tonight on the concerns for flooding this spring. Surprise, we'll show you what people in Kaysville are dealing with now after some major flooding over the past month. And with all of the storm runoff, what are officials doing to make sure the dirty water doesn't reach the taps, ultimately our homes? Before we dive in, let's take a look at what is making headlines tonight. Let's show you right now on KUTV.com some of our top stories here. Legendary Utah broadcaster Dick Norris has died. Norris anchored the news here in Utah for 43 years, from 1965 to 2007. Funeral arrangements will be made public soon. Corey Richins, who you may have heard of once or twice on this program, charged with murdering her husband in Camas, will have her first court appearance June 12th. Originally was scheduled for tomorrow. The detention hearing was first scheduled for them, but was moved just within the last 90 minutes or so. Right now, LGBTQ advocates are rallying at the Utah State Capitol. The organizer is Utah Fam, which stands for Friends, Allies, and Mentors. Finally, in our headlines tonight, a police canine helped Washington County deputies locate more than 7 pounds of fentanyl being transported on I-15 this morning. The suspect was arrested on a felony possession charge with intent to distribute fentanyl, as was the passenger in the vehicle. As we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with us during the show. Use the hashtag 2NewsLive to join the conversation. You can always find us on our social media platforms as well. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Send us a direct message there to weigh in. Well, let's go in depth now on some of the water issues and flooding concerns we've seen in parts of the state. We begin in Kaysville, where crews are still cleaning up nearly a month after some devastating flooding. Brian Malahi back in the neighborhood where all of this happened. We talked to you on this very program the day that the road was washed away. There was a giant sinkhole. Brian, any good news for people that live in this area?
There's a lot of good news going on here. This was actually more than a month ago. April 12th is when the flooding happened. It was running down this street, and it did create 2 giant sinkholes that looked like canyons. One of them is back there. That whole area was a big hole. Dumpsters from construction sites, because these are new homes here, were in that, where they were actually on the pavement, but they fell in. And there was another sinkhole a little bit to the east of here. And that's where crews now have put in tons of fill. They've packed it all down. We saw them compacting that today. And these sinkholes are largely filled. That was striking when I drove into the neighborhood today. We heard back in April this could take months to repair. It seems to be going faster. As well today, tap water was restored to some of the homes here. We were there when a homeowner turned on the faucet for the first time in 5 weeks, and lo and behold, the water was running. She was delighted. She's been taking a shower at an apartment complex in Farmington, where the developer owns that complex and has let people use those apartments to do what they need to do, to take a shower, to live even, to do their laundry. So now finally the water is back on in this neighborhood. That is another very positive sign.
Brian, 5 weeks, you know what? If she just felt like this was a minor inconvenience, good for them. That's the Utah spirit. Hey, obviously a lot of work has been done. What still needs to be done here?
Well, there are still sandbags along the street, and those sandbags need to be collected. The water does not need to be diverted right now. These sandbags are dry, so that is going to happen, but they are up and down Orchard Ridge Lane. That has to occur. Making certain that the infrastructure is good, that the water is good, that the sewer lines are good. That presumably still needs to happen, though, that those services are now restored to the communities. There are homes here that have been sold but never lived in, so some of those people could move back in. In addition, there are homes here for sale because, as I mentioned, this is a new development. Most of these properties had not been sold. And then the determination as to who or what is to blame for this. So we know that it was a clogged drainage system that led to this flooding. but were the actions of someone also factors in this flooding? That still needs to be determined. What I'm told is, and I spoke to the mayor of Kaysville a short time ago, she says that the insurance companies are gathering information right now as to all the factors that led to the flooding in this neighborhood, and there may be many.
Brian Malahi live for us in Kaysville again, once again, in the same neighborhood. Looks a little bit better tonight, and you look the same, Brian.
Sure
we appreciate it, as always. Thank you. Our in-depth conversation on spring flooding continues with all the snow melt coming down in the mountain areas. What is happening to the mud, the silt that is coming right down with it? We're going to head over to Paul Nelson live at the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon with some details. We understand Paul's signal isn't the best right now. We're going to try to make it through as we do here on 2 News Live. Paul, any imminent water quality problems? I think we can hear you, so maybe we'll cover you with some video here.
Right. I mean, to be honest with you, officials are not actually expecting or predicting water problems just yet, but they are saying they are preparing for them just in case all the runoff that they are expecting maybe to hit the flood stages at Big Cottonwood Creek, just in case that brings in way too much mud and debris for them to handle. As right now you can see behind me, this is the treatment plant that is being processed by Big Cottonwood Creek. And right now they're doing about 25 million gallons of water every single day. At the top of their game, they can handle about 38 million gallons of water every single day. But there are times, though, when the water is actually just too dirty for them to actually clean. So in that case, they'll shut the plant down completely, and then they will actually just kind of let all the dirty water pass them by. And as soon as it gets clean enough for them to treat, they'll treat it again. But there are times when there have been, say, mudslides and things like that that have just brought down way too much dirt from the clean.
From the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon. Paul, we're going to let you go because the signal's a little rough, but we want to leave you some time to join us on KUTV 2 News at 6 for a deeper look at the drinking water concerns that come along with our runoff right now. Governor Spencer Cox says that he's confident the state has done enough so far to deal with further flooding. On Wednesday, lawmakers extended the state of emergency due to flooding until August 15th. They allocated roughly $40 million to help deal with flooding concerns. That's a lot more than they initially allocated. It was about $5 million. The governor today said at this point, the amount of money is enough for what we need.
There's a reason that we asked for that amount and that was approved. All of our emergency managers from across the state, we've taken input from them as well. So we feel pretty good about where we are. Remember, we started with $5 million already, and so this is in addition to that, and I'm hopeful that will be sufficient.
All right, so the governor says there's more money available to the state starting July 1st, which is the beginning of the new fiscal year. During the special session yesterday, lawmakers said extending the state of emergency and allocating more money will help Utah be more prepared for whatever happens. The governor noted, though, that all the snowpack is dramatically boosting our water supply. Nearly every reservoir in the state is expected to fill this year. All right, let's turn now to Moab, where several campgrounds are closed tonight due to high water levels on the Colorado River. This is a time lapse from the Red Cliffs Lodge today. It's absolutely beautiful, but there's high water here. Let's take a look at the map now where those campsites are. The Bureau of Land Management has temporarily closed Kings Bottom, Williams Bottom, J.C. Park, Howell Canyon, Goose Island campgrounds. The officials there say they will reopen once the water level drops. They say more closures could happen if the water continues to rise. I've been in touch with the district there that covers the Moab area, and they shared some photos today after we reached out and asked if they had any imagery to share of what this really looks like. So there's obviously some high water concerns. There are some water creeping up onto the banks that are making things difficult. We have those photos. I believe they are on our website. I know I saw them on Instagram, and I know I saw it because Chase Thomason liked the post. so he has seen those photos too.
Yeah, you can see that water, and of course it's the Colorado River that we've been talking about for quite some time. Everything is going up, and we're seeing those campgrounds starting to get a lot of water. We don't like to see that, but we like to see all that water that's going to be going into Lake Powell.
Yes.
All right, so we did some crunching for you.
Okay.
This is within the last week. This is the inflow in green. This is the outflow in red. So I know it can be a little confusing, but cubic feet per second, that's how much water is moving into Lake Powell. 62,167 cubic feet per second. That's incredible. The out, not a lot, about 900. That means within the last 7 days, Lake Powell has climbed more than 7.5 feet. Anything else kind of stick out to you in this?
Jordanelle, my goodness.
Look at Jordanelle.
Jordanelle, Pineview, those are massive increases.
Massive inflows right now.
I mean, I'm not really surprised by some of the others right now at this time, waiting for more water to shift and shuffle, right? Based on what starts higher and then comes down, right?
Yeah, and some of these reservoirs, of course, over the last couple of months, they've been releasing a lot of water. Well, now I'm starting to see more in than coming out. So these reservoirs and lakes, they're filling up, and a lot of them will hopefully get full. Lake Powell will not get full, but the rest of these lakes, especially northern Utah, might.
You're talking about Lake Powell in just a moment after your forecast, hearing from the
That's
folks
right.
at Bureau of Reclamation. We'll talk more about this in just a moment.
Look forward to that report. All right, today's temperatures very warm. Again, almost by 10 degrees, close to 80 in Salt Lake. Mixed bag of 70s and 80s across northern and central Utah. Down in southern Utah, close to 90 in the St. George area. Now, nothing really changes when it comes to our temperatures for tomorrow. We might be a few degrees warmer, though, as we head into your weekend. Mid-80s Saturday and Sunday, but some drier air is pushing into the Wasatch Front. However, down in southern Utah, I think we're going to have some leftover moisture, so we can't rule out those spotty showers and thunderstorms. Right now, Wasatch Front for your evening commute, it's looking really nice. Quiet weather. There's been some spotty showers west of Eagle Mountain. Some stronger thunderstorms, though, rolling into Wendover. And over the Wasatch back, we've had a little bit of rain, but right now it is pretty quiet, and we might stay quiet through the evening, but we can't rule out a lingering shower or thunderstorm, especially over our mountains. Near Escalante, we got a few thunderstorms dropping towards the south to southeast. We've had some cloud cover and some light rain in St. George, but right now some improving conditions. So the setup is for this ridge of high pressure to hang out to our west. Eventually, though, it's going to be pushing into northern Utah, bringing in that drier air mass. There is also a storm system to our south helping to pump up that moisture, and that's why we're seeing all these thunderstorms across the four corners. And again, that'll likely keep things going down in southern Utah as we wrap the work week and head into the weekend. So here we are by 10 o'clock. Notice how the showers just kind of fall apart. They need that fuel, that daytime energy, the heat to get things going, and then we lose that, of course, overnight. Tomorrow afternoon, an isolated shower or storm is possible. Best chance will be south of I-80 in the mountains, and most of it will be in central and southern Utah. And again, it's these hit or miss showers and thunderstorms. And then by Saturday, again, very quiet in northern Utah, same areas, central and southern Utah, has a chance for a storm. So if you're going to those national parks, if you're hiking in the morning, you should be just fine. By the afternoon, though, wear your sunscreen and also keep your eyes to the sky, because there could be a few storms bubbling up. St. George, slight chance for a storm through Sunday, upper 80s for highs. Next week, drier and warmer, low 90s beginning on Tuesday with those overnight lows in the 60s. Salt Lake, low 80s tomorrow, mid 80s through the weekend and into early next week. Again, there might be a stray mountain thunderstorm, but Wasatch Front, pretty quiet, very warm. Again, a lot of snow melt. Please be careful if you're hiking in the foothills, rivers, creeks. Everything is very dangerous right now. Our rain chances go up, and it could be a better chance for some scattered thunderstorms, Brian, Tuesday, Wednesday, and on Thursday. Still pretty warm.
Sounds about right for this time of year. It took me a few years to get used to it and understand our changings of the seasons. Never ceases to amaze me. Beautiful look here, of course, over parts of the Salt Lake Valley right now. And
we had some thunderstorms Wasatch back. So on the other side of the Wasatch, Park City, Heber area, that's where, you know, we have the mountains. That's that lift. We talk about lift, rising motion. There's not really a storm system, but because of our terrain, we get that lift, and you just add a little bit of moisture, warm temperatures, you get thunderstorms.
So it's much better than the dust that moved through yesterday. So that's kind of nice. Hey, we've been talking about Lake Powell, Chase, and you mentioned, what, about 7 feet in the last 7 days?
Right, and about 20 feet since March.
Goodness, that's totally in line with what we were talking about with the folks at the Bureau of Reclamation. There's been this dramatic increase in that flow into the lake. So recently I did speak with a hydrologist. This was not today, by the way. This was late last week. We just had to work on a few things before we shared this with you. So I wanted you to know some of the numbers are reflecting of a few days ago. Okay. But they talked about their expectations for the lake this water year. Take a listen.
Well, we've had a very good winter so far for the upper Colorado River Basin. Snowpack peaked at 161% of median on April 7th. The April through July forecast, where the April through July period is our main runoff period in the upper Colorado Basin, the forecast is at 172% of average, and that's more runoff we've had in that period than we've had in the last 3 years combined. So it's been a very good year thus far, but that doesn't mean that we're kind of out of the woods yet. We've been in a 20+ year drought. 1 year doesn't mean that everything is fixed. And we need multiple years of good hydrology to get the lake back to full. And so this may give us a little bit of a reprieve, but, we still need multiple years like this to, get back to higher levels of Lake Powell.
What's the projection for the amount of water coming in?
So it's 11 million acre feet, or 172% average that I just stated in the April through July period. Through the course of the water year, which is October through September, it's 148% of average. Right now, Lake Powell is rising about a foot a day. So there's a lot of water flowing through the system. There's a lot of snowpack, there's a lot of snow melt, a lot of water flowing down to Powell. Given our latest projection, we're projected to reach a high elevation this year at the end of July of 3590.5. So in April, we hit a low of 3519.92. So that's a 70 foot increase over in one water year. So we're projecting to see a lot of water get into the system. It does make a big difference. Right before this, we were approaching low levels where we were concerned about hitting minimum power pool and trying to protect low critical elevations at the Lake Powell. And this does give us a buffer for that. But again, 1 year does not get us out of the drought, and we need multiple years like this to get Lake Powell back to where we need it to be.
So on that topic, where it needs to be, according to some of this data, right now Lake Powell's nearly 160 feet below full pool. Okay. And this number was from, I believe, yesterday, so keep that in mind.
And we've gone up 20,
yep.
And you can see the big spike right here. Forecast 70, maybe 90 if we're lucky. So that means we're still going to be, roughly 70, 80, 90 feet below that full pool.
So it's at about 21.69 feet from the low. It is up 16 feet from about a year ago.
That's good. Just from 1 year ago, and we still have a whole lot of snowmelt to go.
Looking at this website right now, let's take it full for you because this looks like ants on your screen.
Right.
And it still does. But we were actually curious about the water temperature. Like, would you really want to go swim in this right now?
I mean, Memorial Day is right around the corner, so folks want to know that water temperature. And it is going up almost a degree a day right now. Half a degree to a degree, because we were a week ago at 64 degrees and now we're at 69 degrees.
Interesting to look at that. Also, of course, the averages for May 18th with the outflow, the high temps, the low temps, and some inflow data on the CFS. There's just so much you can, in a way, nerd out and look into right?
I'm loving all the data right now.
We're going to have Chase take a look at this at his at the Weather Center and see if there's anything else that's interesting.
Very cool. But yeah, cold, still in the 60s. Maybe give it a couple more weeks and we'll be in the 70s.
Cold still in the 60s, and by the time you get there in a few weeks, there will be even more water there. Probably won't notice it unless you are there every day. It's one of the things that we were talking about is this noticeable to the eye if you're on the water every single day? Obviously, you'll notice a difference between April to July or something like that when there's 70 feet that has changed.
Right. Or if you were there last year and you go in a couple more weeks, you'll probably notice how much higher it is.
All right, so we're obviously going to keep talking about Lake Powell because more and more water is making its way into that very critical reservoir over the last 20 years of the drought. That was another part of a conversation which we'll put up on our website tomorrow. So guess what? No place like home, especially if you live in one of the top-ranked U.S. cities. A recent report says that one of the best places to live in the country is, in theory, Salt Lake City, but it is not really up there in the ranking. It is in the top 100, if you must know. But this is based on affordability, quality of life, desirability, job market. The annual rankings also consider factors such as cost of living, weather, access to health care. So you see it on the lower portion of your screen. This year, Green Bay, Wisconsin took the #1 spot. Chase is like, what? Salt Lake City ranked 58th. Now I need to know what 2 through 10 were. And I just don't know what those numbers are.
I bet they're cheaper to live in those cities. I keep seeing cost of living, and of course we know Salt Lake's prices going up. Green Bay's, they're probably not.
Yeah, so I mean, put it in perspective. I moved here about 4.5 years ago. Everything has gotten more expensive.
Yep.
Everything. And it's a sharp increase in certain spots.
So what made Salt Lake, I mean, Salt Lake's still, in my opinion, one of the best cities out there, but that was what made Salt Lake great, where you could buy a home for nothing, and now, we're becoming a big city.
Secret's out.
Yep.
Thanks for watching 2 News Live. We are back tomorrow to wrap up the old work week. Chase Thomason, Brian Schnee, thanks to Brian Malahy, Paul Nelson for joining us. And all of you back at home or wherever you're watching, if you're streaming, don't stream and drive. We're back tomorrow.